Suspicious death. Gene Hackman and his wife were found dead today. They had been dead for, looks like, a couple of weeks in their home in Santa Fe. There's a lot of questions at first. They thought this was natural or something like that, but then as more information came out, and I have the search warrant, we're going to read through it. The search warrant affidavit, which really brings up a lot of questions. Don't know. Was this suspicious? Was there foul play? We just don't know. They're going to perform the autopsies, and we'll go from there. But let's say before we get through his films and how much I love the guy as an actor, let's get to the. This is the search warrant that was filed, and let's get to it. So things that they can look for in a search warrant, you have to be specific on kind of what you're looking for. The first thing that kind of caught my eye was the first item that could be looked for, or items to be seized or collected: ignitable, flammable, explosive, or combustible substances, whether solid, liquid, and or gas, and or any container, air, or material that may contain said substances or have said substances on them. All right.
A little odd, but I think it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not pretty standard, but
narcotics. Again, everything else is standard. Narcotics.
Right.
Anything that looked out of anything with digital cameras, photographs, any clothing that looked damaged, any latent prints, any footwear impressions herein, any weapons, anything like that, any DNA, blood, or trace evidence, telephones and cellular telephones, any record documented in the media, which appears to be a password, personal ID number, item, or information used to access items. So they're going all in right now. And the affidavit, Detective Roy Art is a full-time certified peace officer in the state. So this is the guy who filled it out. Statements of fact known to the affiant. Okay.
So this is where it gets interesting.
This is where it gets interesting. At approximately 1:43 p.m. on Wednesday, February 26, 2025, Santa Fe Regional Emergency Communications Center received a call for service regarding a reporting party locating two deceased individuals inside the residence of blank, Santa Fe, New Mexico. All right. So basically, two people, I believe, were there to do a welfare check on this because Gene Hackman and his wife hadn't been seen or heard from for a couple of weeks at least. So, someone wanted to do a welfare check, or they went and checked on him. And I believe that these people were actually gardeners, so they actually saw that the door was open. So we're going to get to that in a second. When Deputy Thomas and Barron arrived, Deputy Thomas indicated he spoke to two individuals who found and located the front door of the residence to be opened and ajar. So their front door was open. So they're dead. Their front door is open and ajar. What that means? Don't know.
Ajar could mean it's cracked open, but maybe it's not like, you look from the front of the yard, you wouldn't maybe notice unless you were right there.
But it's open.
And nonetheless, it's open, which is kind of...
Yeah, I never leave my front door open. Mm-mm. Doesn't happen. Deputy Thomas identified the reporting party to be a male named Roland. This is basically the people who reported. They're maintenance workers. All right. He advised, so after speaking to these two males, he went to the residence. He found the front door ajar. He advised he did not observe any signs of forced entry into the home. Okay. Starting to paint a picture. Deputy Thomas entered the residence. He immediately observed a bathroom to the left of the front door. The door to the bathroom was open. Deputy Thomas advised he observed a deceased female laying on the ground near the countertop inside the bathroom. The female was observed lying on her right side. He advised she was found wearing dark gray sweatpants and a light and color sweatshirt. The female was this is basically his wife, Gene Hackman's wife, Arquana is her last name. There was a black in color space heater near the female's head. He advised he suspected the heater could have fallen in the event the female abruptly fell to the ground. He advised he also observed an orange prescription bottle on the countertop near the deceased female. The prescription bottle appeared open with pills scattered on the countertop. It kind of seems like she just fell, like collapsed for no reason, right, so far. Advised the female decedent showed obvious signs of death, body decomposition, bloating in her face, and mummification in both hands and feet. They were there for so long, no one found them. They were there for a week or two, maybe 3 weeks. Their bodies had started to mummify naturally. They continued to search the residence where they found and observed a deceased brown in colored German Shepherd canine. The deceased canine was located approximately 10 to 15 feet from the deceased female in a closet of the bathroom. So we got a dead woman in the bathroom. We've got a dead canine, a German Shepherd canine, in the closet of the bathroom. And then they proceeded to clear the other portions of the residence. In doing so, they observed a pair of feet and legs on the ground near the kitchen area. Deputy Thomas identified a male to be deceased in an area of the home he believed to be a mudroom. You asked me what a mudroom is. Basically, it's a place where if you walk inside, you can just leave your muddy shoes there.
Right.
The deceased male, who was found wearing gray sweatpants, a blue in color long sleeve T-shirt, brown slippers, and a walking cane. Now they observed a pair of sunglasses located near the decedent's left of his body. Based on Deputy Thomas's training and experience, he suspected the male individual had suddenly fallen. They did, no obvious signs of death similar to the consistent with the female. There were two other, and again, he was mummified and things like that. Advised that there were two other dogs located in the property. Those were alive. One inside, one outside. Okay. All other buildings on the property, the garage should be locked and secured. Nothing was really missing, which is no forced entry into the residence anywhere. Did not observe an indication the residence had been rummaged through or items were taken from the inside. He advised, based on training experience, nothing appears to be, quote, out of place while clearing the residence.
You know what's out of place?
Yeah, the dead bodies. Basically, these are two maintenance workers. They were able to identify the deceased female as Betsy Araquana, and that's who they primarily. They only these maintenance workers are like, look, we never go in the house. We never see these people. They call us or text us. That's how, hey. The two males identified Betsy's husband as Gene Hackman, or Eugene Allen Hackman, the famed Oscar-winning actor who was 95 years old. I think she was 61, 62.
I thought it was 64. It says 61. It says 61, I think.
That could be something different.
Oh.
However, they couldn't positively identify him as a deceased male. At this time, the male's true identity is unknown until further investigation or research can be made.
Well, that's now been confirmed.
Yeah. So a lot of the next part of it, a lot of people came out and said, well, it could have been carbon monoxide poisoning, because with carbon monoxide poisoning or gas leak poisoning, natural gas poisoning, like, you can't smell that stuff, and it just turns you off like a light switch. I mean, it just does.
It's just, yeah.
So they brought in the fire department. So to determine if there were signs of possible carbon monoxide leaks or poisoning, he advised the fire department did not locate signs of carbon monoxide leaks or poisoning. Those firefighters were identified as Captain Daniel, blah, blah, blah. So, the New Mexico Gas Company responded. The residence was conducting active testing on the gas line in and around the residence. Those individuals were identified as such and such. As of now, there are no signs of evidence indicating there were any problems associated to the pipes in and around the residence. So it's kind of hard at this point with this affidavit to say it was carbon monoxide poisoning or natural gas poisoning. Again, that's all speculation. I ain't a cop. I ain't there.
I will say this: is they found him in the mudroom collapsed or
collapsed, like he had just suddenly fallen over. Same thing with her. Like, she was in the bathroom taking a couple pills. She was opening her butt and it kind of fell over, and then that's why.
But that would have happened like simultaneously, essentially.
Yeah,
which is extremely suspicious.
Yeah,
because I mean, one is 95, the other one's 61. They're relatively healthy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, 95. I mean, as healthy as a 95-year-old could be.
95, sure. Again, maybe his death doesn't so make me question as much. It's more her death. 61.
The dogs too. So you have 3 deaths. The probability of 3 deaths. Never mind just 3 deaths. So you got a dog, but two people dying in the exact same moment. Again, I know where you're going too. But
damn.
It's not probable.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
They don't say what the pills were, but that's the affidavit, and it sucks because
you like them.
I love Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman's one of my favorites.
He's a good actor
of all time.
Was a good actor.
He's one of my favorites of all time. He wrote books. He's just one of those actors that has played some roles that'll live forever. We're going to get into him in a second here. But rest in peace. We're going to wait on the autopsy. Hollywood's in mourning. He's one of the greatest. He really was. But again, we have to wait for the autopsy to see what happens. And and go from there. But let's get into his filmography. So
Yeah, because you talk about him. I think I remember him maybe from a couple movies,
yeah,
mainly being Superman.
most people are going to know him. He's Lex Luthor.
Right.
Lex Luthor from the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and still probably the best Lex Luthor that ever to be on film. Now, I've known him from way back in the day. I think the first thing I saw him in was with Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh yeah,
He played Clyde Barrow's brother,
right.
In it, and it was a smaller part, but it was memorable. It got him started, right?
He was also in a Western movie, I remember.
Well, we're gonna get to that. Yeah,
that's a very good one.
Yeah. So I mean, he worked a lot. I mean, he's been working since I think his first movie was 1961, Mad Dog Call, Terrorize the City, and so Bonnie and Clyde, right? Great movie. Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway, and then the movie that really made him and gave him his Oscar, deservedly so. I did a retro movie review on this. It's on the channel if you want to check it out. The French Connection. It's, for me, one of the top 10 greatest films ever made. It's the greatest car chase scene ever filmed. And it's based off of the true story of Popeye Doyle. He plays Popeye Doyle, a New York detective who, one of the biggest drug busts in history, French heroin. And it was the biggest drug bust in the history of New York at the time. I think it still may remain one of the top 5, if not the top. Popeye Doyle, real guy. He was not a nice guy. He was a rough cop.
It's New York.
New York. He was
gotta be rough.
Yeah, New York in the late 60s, early 70s. And the kind of guy Gene Hackman was. He wanted to do the role. He didn't want to do the role because he didn't think he could. Because Popeye Doyle had to say some pretty racist things to some of the people he was arresting, some of the people he was abusing, some of the people he was beating up for information. I mean, it's gritty. I mean, if the word gritty is used a lot with films, this film is gritty. It's the definition of gritty, and it's real life, true to life. But he said, I don't think I can say these words. It made him feel sick to have to say these words to these other actors that, they're actors just like him. So he had a lot of respect for those people. And he's just not that type of guy. He never was. And he was never comfortable with it. Right. But William Friedkin, who also did The Exorcist, who directed this, convinced him, yeah, you could do this. You could find this place. Roy Scheider plays his partner. Of course, we all know him as Chief Brody from Jaws. A great performance in that as well. And so they go about the scenes, and they were doing it in the middle of frigid. I mean, they were freezing in New York, doing all these outside scenes. I mean,
Queens,
Bronx, Brooklyn, everywhere. They were all over the place. Harlem.
They went to Harlem with that harsh language?
Oh, yeah. They went there.
Oh, all right. Ballsy. I can see why one.
Yeah, and so the car chase scene, if you watch it, now by today's standards, they're like, oh, we got Fast and Furious. Like, okay, there's no CGI in this crap.
This is all
a stunt driver or Gene Hackman himself driving this car underneath an elevated train because the guy he's chasing is on the elevated train and he's going through regular traffic. Now, here's the thing. They didn't have permits to do this. They didn't have all the permits to do this. So, okay.
What do you do?
Well, it's a cop movie. It's trying to make the cops look good. So all the off-duty cops that they hired, they would go and they would shut down all the side streets to this main road that they're doing 80, 90 miles an hour down. Right? However, they didn't quite get there in time to shut down all the roads and some, so the traffic you see that they're dodging is actual people just on their way to work.
Or living life. Just maybe want to go grab a pizza down in the corner.
And one of the car crashes is a real car crash with a real person that didn't know they were filming a movie. Now, the elevated train only went from one point to another so they could do the chase one way, right? And then they'd turn the car around and they'd have the L driver go backwards. Now, they didn't have permission to do this. The L driver had zero permission to do this.
That man was paid handsomely.
So they said, what do you need for this? How can we make this happen? The L driver said, give me a one-way first-class ticket to Jamaica and give me $50,000 cash. Deal. And so that when you see the L train, that's how they got that filming. That's how they got this done. And half the time it's Hackman driving like a maniac. Half the time it's the the stunt driver, and even the director, he was in the back seat with the camera because none of the cameramen were brave. They said, we are not getting in that back seat to hold that camera for that point of view. So the director's like, okay, I'll go in it. And he's like, I thought I was going to die. It's just amazing, practical, just we're going to go and renegade guerrilla filmmaking.
You wish you had that today. Because, there are some good car chases today.
Yep.
Nothing like that. I don't think I've seen
everything's so choreographed.
I've seen many clips.
Disney Plus.
I think I've seen this movie maybe once.
Yeah.
Maybe once. Like, I don't very much remember if I did. But I definitely have seen that car chase scene. It is, if you haven't watched it, go watch it.
Yep.
It's great.
And this film is on Disney Plus if you have Disney Plus because they bought the rights to the studio that originally owned this film. And it's one of the greatest. Again, for me, it's one of my top 10 favorite films of all time. I would say, not just even me saying this, it's one of the top 10 performances by any actor of all time. I mean, it's up there with Pacino in The Godfather. It's up there with, Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now. It's that type of performance that will stay with you. And there's a line in there that confused me. When I was younger and I first saw this movie, Popeye Doyle would grab the witness, grab whoever thug he was trying to grab and get information of, throw him up against the wall. And his partner would be like, hey, buddy, be the nice cop. Popeye Doyle would always play bad cop. And he'd say, hey, you pick your feet in Poughkeepsie? You've been picking your feet in Poughkeepsie, haven't you? And they're like, the criminal would be like, Poughkeepsie's a place in upstate New York, right? About an hour north of New York City. And they would say, well, why did you say that? Because the idiot criminal, drug dealer or drug addict
doesn't know Poughkeepsie.
Well, he'd be like, why are you asking me this? So he'd think, this cop is crazy. This cop is out of his mind. He's like, why? And he'd be so scared and thrown off. This is actual New York City techniques. He'd be so scared and thrown off. He would answer whatever good guy question the good guy cop was asking him.
Because he'd be like,
man. This freaking nut job asked me if I picked my feet in Poughkeepsie, right? And then there's a scene in there in the beginning where Popeye Doyle is dressed as Santa Claus, and they're doing surveillance on this bar looking for this drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And all these kids are coming up to him. It's like, yeah, Santa was singing Jingle Bells, and he's on the street, Jingle Bells, right? That's real. That's actually from the real files. A lot of this was taken from the real. What you see is actually taken from the real files. So the French Connection, it's just such an amazing movie. And
they do the actual person justice.
Yeah, but Popeye Doyle's actually in it. There's a scene where Hackman's character is like getting berated by his senior officer. That senior officer happens to be the real Popeye Doyle, the real detective that And when you see Popeye Doyle in a picture of Popeye Doyle in real life, you're like, okay, that fits. Yeah.
Is this the real picture?
No, that's Gene Hackman.
No, this is Wikipedia. Jimmy Popeye Doyle.
Yeah, that's Gene Hackman. That's him waving hello to the.
Right, well, that's what I thought, but I thought maybe for some reason French Connection here.
Yeah, you gotta just say real life pic. That's all Gene Hackman. Yeah, real life Popeye Doyle. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. Yeah, good job.
So, but anyways. If you haven't seen it and you got Disney Plus and you want to see it, or if you want to rent it, fabulous movie. There's a French Connection too, not as good. They convinced Hackman to do it, throw him a little money. Hey, any actor wants a little money. Excuse me. But as a kid, the next movie really made an impression on me and really introduced me. Before I saw it, I think this is actually before I saw the French Connection, the Poseidon Adventure. Now they remade the Poseidon Adventure about 10 years back, and it sucked. The real Poseidon Adventure, the original, not the real, which was with Gene Hackman, where the ship gets hit by a tsunami and capsizes, and the survivors, what's left of them, have to make their way. They're underwater, but they have to make their way up through the ship to the keel to hopefully get rescued. And it's amazing. Well done, practical effects. There's one girl in it who just screams all the time, but that was kind of the thing of the day. And she kind of gets a little annoying, and but it's got this kid in it who reminds me of the kid from Airplane, where they bring him in to the cockpit. Oh, yeah. Do you like gladiator movies? Right, but it's got that kind of kid in it, so you kind of let them go. But it's Gene Hackman. It's a great performance, a great action. Kind of that whole era, the early '70s. You had all the disaster movies, Towering Inferno and stuff like that. But definitely Poseidon Adventure. The original worth though, and even the second one was the Poseidon Adventure 2 or Return to Poseidon or whatever they call it with Michael Caine, where they go back into it, they find it floating there, and like it's an ocean liner floating in. Like, yeah, let's go in and see if we can rob anything. That was a good movie too.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman.
I like that one. That one's good.
Young Frankenstein. You know what? What I know of Young Frankenstein is it's my favorite Mel Brooks film. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time.
Mhm.
Now, Gene Hackman plays the blind monk who runs into Frankenstein. Frankenstein runs into him. Listen, they wanted Gene Hackman. They wanted Gene Hackman to play a role in this, and he wanted to play a role in this. They didn't think they could get him. They didn't think they could, convince him. There was a lot of miscommunication. Finally, Gene Wilder's like, made it happen, and it's because Gene Hackman says, "Can I want to be funny. I'll play the blind monk. I'll do that role, and I'll do it hilariously." And it is hilarious what he does to Frankenstein and how he acts and just how he is. It's just a memorable piece of that film. So if you've seen Young Frankenstein, you know Gene Hackman. There you see, of course, the French Connection 2. A Bridge Too Far, again, a great war movie.
Right.
Ensemble. Then you get to Superman 1, Superman 2. What can you say? He's still one of the greatest villains on screen.
If you think Lex Luthor, you think him.
Yeah.
I mean, who else do you think of?
I mean, that scene when he's being put in jail, when he's being returned to jail, he rips off his wig, he's bald. I'm Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind in history, history of the world. I mean, it's just awesome. He just had the ego there. He was great. We'll go over a couple more of his hits. Red's another good movie. Target.
He lived a long and good life.
All right, here's one.
At least,
He was a Marine. He did radio communications in China for the Marines. He was a DJ for the Marines. It's where he learned. It's where he fell in love with entertainment. Here's a movie which can be polarizing. To me, it's one of the greatest movies of my childhood.
Which one?
Hoosiers.
He
he played the coach,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the score says at the end of the day.
I like that movie.
We're going to be winners.
Right?
Yeah, it's just, it captures Indiana basketball. It captures a time. If you don't, if you watch Midwest. That, it just gets you in the feels. It really does. And it's just one of those great performances that will be remembered, and that movie will be watched over and over and over again, year after year after year.
It really captures the Midwest, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When you watch it, it gives you that welcome to the Midwest in, what was it, the 30s, 20s?
I would say it's the 30s.
30s.
I would say it's the 30s.
I could be really wrong about that, but still.
No, 50s. I think 50s.
50s. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was like, 30 seems wrong.
So then he went back to Superman for Quest for Peace. Why? Because they talked him into it. No Way Out with Kevin Costner. He plays the bad guy. Great film. If you haven't seen No Way Out, Kevin Costner sings his. This is the movie that when he worked with Kevin Costner famously says on the Rich Eisen show, who's the greatest actor you ever worked with? Kevin Costner says Gene Hackman. And Kevin Costner's worked with them all. So it's a pretty good opinion right there. Mississippi Burning. We talk about One More Day in Black History Month. If you want a film that really addresses a piece of American history without the preachiness, but really just tells you the grittiness of history, really tells you right from wrong, good from evil, Mississippi Burning. And amazing. Then there's The Package. Oh, another movie he played with was called a while ago was called The Conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one where he's always spying on people. That was an interesting one. You get The Package. Loose Cannons with Dan Aykroyd. It's a comedy from 1990. I remember seeing it a couple times. It was okay. It was not something I'd say, hey, if you want to laugh out loud, this is it. It was okay. He was the straight man. Dan Aykroyd's a lunatic. Class Action, good movie. Then you get to Clint Eastwood and Unforgiven. Unforgiven might be the greatest Western ever. And Gene Hackman's a big part of that. So take that for what it's worth. I think we've all know Unforgiven. The Oscars have been won for that.
Right. And then also there's The Quick and the Dead.
We'll get into that because we still have The Firm with Tom Cruise. Great Tom Cruise movie.
I forget how the movie.
Wyatt Earp's dad in Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner.
I completely forgot he's the dad in Wyatt Earp.
Yep. You got The Quick and the Dead with Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, here he is with a pre-Titanic Leonardo DiCaprio, pre-Gladiator Russell Crowe, a post Basic Instinct Sharon Stone in a Western that was supposed to be kind of a popcorn Western, and it really was. It was fun. was a fun movie. He played a real dirtbag. I mean, talk about just you just wanted him. I mean, talk about a
But
king.
part of you did want to see him win at the same time. You're like, I want you to lose, but damn, you're cool.
Yeah, what a great performance. Up next after that, in 1995, he released 2 movies in 95, Quick and the Dead, and then The Crimson Tide, one of my favorites by him as well. With Denzel Washington, it's a submarine movie. Yeah, it's got a little bit of that underlying, racial tension, but the story overall about what can happen when a nuclear submarine is giving conflicting orders or whether to launch or not. Yeah, it's good, and he plays. I mean, he brings the power. There's few people that can make Denzel look small on screen because Denzel is one of the greatest actors alive. One of the greatest actors alive, if not one of the greatest actors ever lived, and
Right.
he can put in a powerful performance. But when you put him up against Gene Hackman, and Gene Hackman makes him look like the rookie that he is, tells you everything you need to know about Gene Hackman.
I mean, if you haven't realized the list and the range he's got
Yeah.
just from these
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. Well, then he plays a comedic role in Get Shorty, which is sort of like a parody. That was like after Pulp Fiction came out. Everybody's kind of trying to get that Pulp Fiction vibe. Of course, John Travolta's in it, Danny DeVito, Rene Russo. It's a fun movie. Get Shorty's a fun movie, and Hackman plays the total opposite of what you could be a sub commander. He plays a total loser, just can't get anything right. Extreme Measures, great movie. Birdcage, people remember from the Birdcage, he was the straight dad, the politician who had to come to terms that he had to come to terms with homosexuality in his family, or marrying into his family. It is what it is. It's Robin Williams is in it. Nathan Lane did really well at the box office, so he was really hitting his stride. I mean, you look at all the movies in between '92. Let's go back to nine. Let's go to nine. Let's see. 92. So we got Unforgiven. '93. We got The Firm, Geronimo. 94. Wyatt Earp. 95. Quick and the Dead. Crimson Tide, Get Shorty, 96 Birdcage, 96 Extreme Measures, 96 The Chamber. So he's done 10 movies in friggin' 3 or 4 years. So he was working his ass off. He rejoined Absolute Power with Clint Eastwood, played the president, played a real dickhead. Enemy of the State, didn't really care for that one. You got Under Suspicion, good movie. The Replacements with Keanu Reeves, kind of a quirky little football comedy. He plays the coach of the football team. Wasn't his greatest, wasn't his worst. You got The Heist with Danny DeVito. It was okay. Mm-hmm. Heartbreakers with that was more of a Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sigourney Weaver kind of thing, where they kind of gold diggers kind of like that thing. The Royal Tenenbaums, he was in that. People liked him in that. I wasn't a big fan of the Royal Tenenbaums. Behind Enemy Lines, great film. Runaway Jury, great film. Welcome to Mooseport, comedy. It just kind of didn't land anywhere, and that was really the end of it.
And
he really called it
again.
Yeah,
or those remasters.
Those remasters. Then he called it quits. He retired. He went to go become a writer. He wrote 3 books and just wanted to retire and just live life. And
I think he got that opportunity.
Yeah, and
95
years old,
blessed life.
Found dead from we don't know what yet, and 3 days before the Oscars, right? And who knows if they're going to have the time to get him into the in memoriam.
They better.
I mean, that stuff's already usually locked in by now. They're scrambling right now. The people at the Academy Awards are scrambling.
Dude, it's Gene Okerman. He just died 3 days ago.
Gene Hackman, not Gene
Okerman. Sorry, Okerman. Hackman. I don't know why I said Okerman.
Because we were talking wrestling the other day.
Oh, that's right.
But he's the type of actor where he doesn't get the in memoriam. He gets a separate, after the in memoriam, someone walks out, someone like a Danny DeVito, someone like a Dustin Hoffman, someone like a Kevin Costner will walk out and do something specific just for him. He's that. He's earned that status as
2 Academy Awards, 2 British Academy Film Awards, and 4 Golden Globes.
Yeah,
that tells you enough.
Yeah, not many people win 1. He's won 2.
Yep.
Not many. So rest in peace, Gene Hackman. Again, we just ran down his film credentials and what I loved and how he influenced my love for film. I mean, as a kid, I must have watched The Poseidon Adventure over and over and over again on HBO when HBO first became cable. Same thing with Young Frankenstein, over and over and over again. Same thing with Superman the movie, and Superman 2, over and over and over again. And Delma Hoosiers, over and over. I mean, I can't.
I mean, he's immortalized. In terms of film, he's immortalized. I mean, there's few and far in between when it comes to that category, at least in film industry.
Yeah,
and he's definitely in it. And he's not one of those names on the on the hedges. He's right there at the barbecue party, at the grill.
Yep. So I'll probably get some time this weekend, maybe some free time. There's a movie to watch. It'll be a Gene Hackman film, and maybe it'll be Poseidon Adventure. Maybe it'll be The Conversation. I don't know. Maybe maybe the French Connection. I just watched it 3 months ago. 3 months ago, I watched it to do the review. So check out the review if you want on the channel. Retro Movie Review Theater. It's on the playlist for the French Connection. And yeah, that's all I get to say about that. Yeah.
No. Oh, sorry. No, good. Go.
Yeah. Go. No, that's it. I just rest in peace, Gene Hackman.
Right.
And thank you for everything you did for movies. And I love movies as much as I do partly because of what he did, and partly